The night my son told me to sleep in my car while my house burned to ash behind me, I learned two truths I'd spent a lifetime avoiding. First, love without boundaries is a match waiting for oxygen. Second, rock bottom isn't a place, it's a mirror. If you've ever stood in smoke and realized the people you'd die for would let you live in a parking lot, you understand the sound a heart makes when it hardens. I didn't know it then, but what came next would turn grief into gasoline and mercy into strategy. I am Sophia Martinez, 57, a widow with a Tuesday grocery routine and a Victorian house that used to hold a marriage, a childhood, and 1,000 ordinary miracles. On October 15th, 2024, at about 4:30 p.m., I was debating Roma versus beefsteak tomatoes at Whole Foods when Mr. Chen called. "Sophia! Fire! Fire your house!" The Palisades flames had jumped the highway like overachievers. I drove until police barricades stopped me and watched from the Pacific Coast Highway overlook as 30 years of life folded into orange. The place where Robert died in my arms. The hallway where David taped his 4th grade spelling list. The porch where I'd promised myself I would grow old and soft and kind. The fire ate it all like a greedy god. Smoke stung my throat while I dialed my son. Keystrokes clattered in the background because, of course, David worked through my apocalypse. "Mom," he said, distracted. "The house is gone," I managed, voice splintering. There was a pause, long enough to turn grief into suspicion. And then I heard her Amanda, the fiancé whose smile could sell ice to a polar bear, cutting in from somewhere just off speakerphone. "If you let her come here, I'm going to my mother's." David exhaled like compassion would cost him rent. "Mom, I'm really sorry, but you can't stay here. Amanda's under tremendous stress. The insurance will cover a hotel. I'll call you later." He hung up, leaving me alone with smoke and a lesson I should have learned sooner. Sometimes the people you raise grow up into strangers who love their peace more than your survival. I had tried to accept Amanda, the digital marketing consultant, with a vocabulary full of buzzwords and a background shaped like fog. From day 3, I disliked how she studied our family finances like a hobby. How she called me Mother Martinez, the way a collections agent says valued customer. When I offered to contribute $50,000 from Robert's insurance toward their wedding, she floated a porcelain smile across the table. "You're so thoughtful, but we have everything handled. We'd hate to burden you at your age." David called late that night, voice righteous with borrowed tears, accusing me of humiliating her. Apparently, generosity had become a hostile corporate takeover of their autonomy. After that, the erasure sharpened. They moved to San Francisco, $4,800 a month for an apartment David couldn't afford. Phone calls became performance reviews. Holidays became medical emergencies that somehow coincided with Amanda's Instagram posts from cabanas and tasting menus. When I confronted him, he said I was stalking them. By the time the fire came, my exile was nearly complete. The flames only finished what manipulation started. The first motel smelled like bleach and resignation. $89 a night siphoned my savings, while the insurance company muttered about extra scrutiny for wildfire claims, as if I had scheduled an inferno between errands. On day 8, I graduated to my Honda Civic, claiming a quiet corner of a Walmart parking lot where the night security guard, Miguel, offered real coffee and dignity at 2 a.m. I learned the rituals of car sleeping, the rolled towel behind your spine that postpones pain, the sweater over the steering wheel to keep it from whispering cold into your palms, the way dawn light can feel like pity. I prayed, cursed, and memorized the hum of engines passing, imagining each one was my son remembering I was alive. He didn't call, not once. A text on day 4. "How's the insurance stuff going?" read like a question about tire rotation. My bank balance dwindled, each transaction a needle pricking what was left of my pride. In the bathroom mirror at 5:48, I looked like someone I would have pitied, once a woman whose hope had blistered down to stubbornness. I could forgive a lot, but not indifference. Still, I kept dialing. Still, I left voicemails that said I was okay. Because a mother's reflexes don't die just because her son's compassion takes a sabbatical. 2 months taught me how humiliation rearranges your bones. I became efficient at invisibility. I timed showers at the gym, learned which libraries ignored long sits, and discovered that the heart recalibrates when necessity outruns nostalgia. Miguel, with his $10 an hour kindness, asked nothing and offered warmth. David, with his Stanford degree and curated life, offered silence. I stopped checking Instagram because pain shouldn't be recreational, and trained my brain to list 3 things I could still control each morning: breathe, stand up, keep receipts. On a Tuesday at 9:12, a Boston number lit my phone. Mrs. Martinez James Whitmore. Whitmore, Patterson and Associates. "I'm calling about the estate of Margaret Vanderbilt Chen Martinez. Great-Aunt Margaret, our family's elegant thunderstorm, lived in a Beacon Hill mansion and wielded opinions like sabers. You are the sole beneficiary. Estimated value approximately $5.9 million. I sat there in a car that smelled of industrial cleaner and oatmeal squares, listening to numbers that didn't belong in my life. She left a note," he added, almost cheerful. "Said you were the only family member who never asked her for money." A laugh rose out of me, wild and involuntary, cracking the ceiling of my grief like lightning. The universe, it seemed, had a sense of timing and a talent for irony. I pressed my palms to the steering wheel and let a new thought slide into place if I couldn't count on the people I'd built my life around. I would build a new life so sturdy they could never dent it again. 3 weeks later, I was no longer the woman sleeping in a Walmart parking lot. I was the owner of a sprawling estate in Carmel by the Sea, 5 bedrooms, 6 bathrooms, infinity pools spilling into the horizon like liquid silver. The wine cellar alone could have funded a retirement plan. I walked barefoot across marble floors that clicked under my heels and told myself this wasn't luck, it was recompense. Great-Aunt Margaret's ghost must have been laughing somewhere, watching me trade car windows for ocean views in less time than it takes to process an insurance claim. The silence of my new home was intoxicating. No Amanda orchestrating migraines to sabotage holidays. No David offering distracted apologies. Just me and the ocean, each wave a benediction. But peace never stays unchallenged. After 3 weeks of bliss, I posted a single photograph, my bare feet propped on a deck railing, sea stretching infinite blue. Captioned, "Sometimes the best views come after the worst storms." 90 minutes later, David called. "Mom, that view looks expensive. Where are you?" His voice trembled between confusion and curiosity. I told him about Aunt Margaret's estate, how she had left me everything. I used a portion to buy a small place by the water. I said, deliberately modest. Silence, then a forced brightness. "Wow. I'm happy for you, Mom. You deserve this." Minutes later, Amanda messaged, sugar-drenched as always. "Mother Martinez, what a stunning view. David and I would love to visit." The woman who once campaigned to exile me from my son's life had suddenly discovered family values, courtesy of $6 million. I agreed with enthusiasm sharp enough to cut glass. "Of course. The house is enormous, plenty of space for everyone. I'd love nothing more than a family visit. while they planned their weekend. I hired Marcus Webb, a former FBI investigator turned private detective, recommended by one of Margaret's old Boston friends, over overpriced coffee in Beverly Hills. I laid out the assignment. I want everything on Amanda Richardson: employment, finances, background, traffic tickets, you name it. If she sneezed in public, I want documentation. He smiled like Christmas morning. People like her always leave trails. While Marcus excavated, I studied Amanda online. Her Instagram overflowed with curated luxury designer bags, champagne brunches, vacations that cost more than David's monthly salary. Her supposed consulting business had no website, no licenses, no tax records, just a LinkedIn profile bursting with buzzwords. David never questioned where the money came from, blinded by love and trained oblivion. I watched her feed the way naturalists observe predators carefully, aware every move was part of a hunt. When they arrived that Friday, Amanda beamed like a bride on a magazine cover. She hugged me, gushing over my home as if she hadn't once orchestrated my exile. "Mother Martinez, this place is magical. The energy here is so healing." Her voice dripped with performance. David, poor soul, looked relieved, convinced his mother and wife were finally connecting. I played gracious hostess while calculating prison sentences in my head. Amanda photographed everything: the wine cellar, the art, the ocean view with a focus too precise to be casual. These weren't vacation snapshots. They were reconnaissance. Saturday afternoon, while David dozed by the pool, Amanda made a phone call from the guest wing. Thanks to my updated security system, I heard every word. "The place is better than the photos. We're talking 8 figures, minimum. The wine collection alone could fund retirement. She leaves investment portfolios lying around like grocery lists. 2 more weeks, and we execute. By Christmas, we'll be somewhere without extradition." I gripped my iced tea until the glass threatened to shatter. She wasn't just robbing David anymore, she was planning to rob me too. "And her co-conspirator Marcus," she said on the call. The same name connected to a past fraud case Marcus Webb had already flagged. Sunday morning, Amanda staged another performance, approaching me with watery eyes. "Mother Martinez, David and I are struggling financially. Would it be possible for him to have access to your accounts, just in case of emergency?" The audacity almost made me laugh. "What a thoughtful suggestion," I said sweetly. "We should definitely set something up." Her eyes glowed with anticipated victory, unaware she'd just confessed to conspiracy on high-definition audio. Monday, Marcus Webb called. His voice was grim. "Mrs. Martinez, Amanda's employment history is fabricated. She's been collecting unemployment while posing as a consultant, but that's the least of it. She's opened multiple credit cards in David's name, $70,000 in debt. She's siphoned $35,000 into hidden cryptocurrency wallets, and she isn't Amanda Richardson. Birth records show Amy Peterson, Phoenix, Arizona. She switched identities in 2019 when a Marcus Peterson was arrested for fraud." I felt my stomach plummet. "So, what is she? A thief, a con artist?" "She's both, and worse. She targets men with assets, builds dependency, drains them dry, then disappears. I've documented at least 3 other victims." I stared out at the Pacific, realization sinking like an anchor. My son wasn't just manipulated, he was prey. But Marcus wasn't finished. There's more. Her partner, Marcus Rivera, ex-military, dishonorably discharged, wanted in 3 states for arson and insurance fraud. We found transfers Amy paid him $25,000 3 days before your house burned. The pest control company contracted in your neighborhood one of his shells. The room spun. My fire, My tomatoes. My Tuesday schedule that David had casually mentioned over dinner. She tried to kill me, I whispered. Yes, Marcus said flatly. And she planned to finish the job. The next fire was supposed to happen here, during your next family visit. Both you and David were marked as casualties. The ocean view blurred as tears stung my eyes. Amanda hadn't just stolen my son's loyalty, she had orchestrated my destruction and planned his. The fire that consumed my home wasn't random chance. It was step 1 in a murder plot. And the next step was scheduled within 2 weeks. I closed the folder of evidence with hands that no longer shook. If Amanda thought she'd outplayed me, she had no idea who she was dealing with. She had turned my grief into steel, and this time, the fire was going to burn her. I called David the next morning with a voice carefully tuned to sound vulnerable, not vengeful. Honey, I've been thinking. You and Amanda seemed so relaxed here. I'd love for you to come back for a longer visit, maybe a whole week. He sounded genuinely touched. Really, that would be amazing. Mom, Amanda's been talking nonstop about how peaceful your place feels. Peaceful. Nothing says serenity like planning arson by the ocean. I sweetened the bait. I'll stock the kitchen. Make sure you both have everything. It'll be nice to spend time together. Within an hour, Amanda texted me, her words dripping with enthusiasm. This feels like the perfect opportunity to bond as a family. She didn't know I'd already been in touch with federal investigators. Marcus Webb had introduced me to Special Agent Sarah Chen, who walked through my house with quiet efficiency. Within days, my estate was transformed into the most sophisticated evidence-gathering operation I'd ever seen. Hidden microphones in every guest room, high-definition cameras that blended into the decor, even thermal sensors in the wine cellar. If Amanda wanted to play criminal mastermind in my home, she was about to star in her own indictment. The real masterpiece, though, was digital bait. With the help of the agents, I created fake financial portfolios suggesting offshore accounts, property deeds for non-existent estates, and investments that made my $6 million inheritance look like pocket change. She'll take it, Marcus assured me. Predators can't resist a bigger score. They arrived Tuesday evening, weekend bags in hand, faces bright with rehearsed normalcy. Amanda hugged me as if she hadn't tried to incinerate me 2 months earlier. Mother Martinez, I can't tell you how grateful we are for this. It means the world. I smiled, thinking how federal prison would soon mean her world. For 3 days I played hostess while Amanda staged her greatest performance. She complimented my decor, cooked in my kitchen, even suggested we sit down together to review my estate planning for David's security. David beamed, certain his wife and mother had finally found common ground. Poor boy, he was still reading a fairy tale while standing in a crime scene. Thursday night, after David went to bed, Amanda made the call I'd been waiting for. The agents captured every word. Marcus, everything's in place. The accelerants are positioned, and I've documented all the financial accounts. Tomorrow night we execute. It'll look like an electrical fire. Tragic accident. No survivors. We'll be in Mexico by Sunday. My stomach tightened, but I stayed calm. I had what we needed, a confession that would anchor her in prison for life. Friday morning, I suggested a girls' trip to town. We could get lunch, maybe some shopping. Amanda nearly glowed with anticipation, thinking she had already won. Instead, I drove straight to the federal field office. The moment we pulled into the lot, confusion clouded her face. Mother Martinez, I think you missed the turn. I parked and smiled. No, Amy Peterson, this is exactly where we need to be. Her mask cracked. I don't know what you think you're doing, but David will never forgive you for this. I opened the door to find Agent Chen waiting with a folder thick enough to bury a lifetime. Amy Peterson, she said. You're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, arson, fraud, and multiple federal crimes. Amanda lunged at me, screaming curses that echoed across the concrete. You have no idea what you've done. David will hate you forever. Her wrists were cuffed in steel, her career of cons ending on government pavement. Driving home, I rehearsed what I'd tell David. No parent dreams of the day they must explain to their child that the woman he loves tried to murder them both. He sat in my living room, staring at the federal warrant stamped with Amanda's face, as Marcus played recordings of her phone calls. His hands shook. She tried to kill you, and me? That fire wasn't an accident. His voice broke. Mom, I chose her over you. I left you with nothing because I believed her. I touched his hand, seeing the boy who once clung to me at his father's funeral, promising we were a team. David, you weren't stupid. You were targeted. She studied you the way predators study prey. She made manipulation look like love. He bowed his head, shame thick in the air. But in that moment, I didn't need his apology. I only needed him to survive. Over the following months, the case unfolded like a prosecutor's dream. 3 states, multiple victims, recordings of conspiracies spoken in Amanda's own voice. She and her partner, Marcus Rivera, were both sentenced to life without parole. The courtroom heard stories of burned homes, stolen inheritances, destroyed lives. For once, justice didn't whisper, it roared. David moved into my guest house, a shell of himself. Therapy and financial counseling began the slow work of stitching his life back together. We drank coffee on my deck each morning, watching pelicans dive into the waves. He told me one morning, voice quiet but steady, when I told you to sleep in your car, that will haunt me forever. I shook my head. You were manipulated by someone who made deception into science. You can't blame yourself for falling for a professional criminal. He looked at me, eyes tired but soft. Still, you deserved better? Maybe, I said, gazing out at the horizon. But look how it ended. She's in prison. You're alive. And I'm stronger than I ever thought possible. 6 months after Amanda's arrest, the estate in Carmel felt less like a fortress of grief and more like a sanctuary. David was still rebuilding, both financially and emotionally, but progress showed in small ways. His credit score crept upward after the mountain of fraudulent debt began clearing. He started cooking again, the way he had as a boy when Robert taught him to whisk eggs on Saturday mornings. Sometimes I'd catch him standing by the deck rail, staring out at the Pacific with a mixture of wonder and regret, as if trying to reconcile the fact that the same waves that comforted him now had once framed his near destruction. One evening, coffee steaming between us, he spoke with a quiet honesty that felt like a confession. Mom, I believed every word she said. When you warned me, I thought you were controlling. I thought you didn't want me to be happy. And when you lost everything, when you needed help, I turned you away. That's never going to leave me. His voice cracked, and for a moment I saw the child he used to be, the boy who once clung to my hand at his father's funeral. David, I said, choosing my words carefully. Amy Peterson was a professional predator. She made manipulation look like love. You didn't fail me. You were targeted. There's a difference. He nodded, but the shame sat heavy on his shoulders. Still, healing isn't linear, and guilt, as I'd learned, could be fertile ground if you let it grow into wisdom instead of rot. The trial itself had been almost cinematic. Prosecutors presented audio of Amanda calmly discussing how to accelerate my house fire, video of her snooping through my files, financial documents linking her to Rivera's fraudulent shell companies. Victims from Phoenix, Denver, and Las Vegas testified. Each story a mirror of David's love turned weapon, trust turned theft. When the verdict came, Amanda Amy stood rigid as the judge sentenced her to life in federal prison without parole. Rivera received the same after agents tracked him down in Montana. Watching her led away in cuffs, still muttering threats about how David would never forgive me, I felt something I hadn't in months. Peace. David struggled with the truth, but little by little, the fog cleared. Therapy helped him see how his loyalty had been twisted into chains. He began volunteering at a local community tech program, teaching teenagers coding skills. Feels good to help people without expecting anything, he told me once, and I could see him slowly reclaiming pieces of himself Amanda had tried to erase. As for me, I stopped thinking of myself as a victim. The fire that destroyed my home had stripped me of illusions as much as possessions. I no longer carried the weight of unspoken debts or unreturned sacrifices. I learned that survival wasn't about endurance alone, it was about transformation. Rock bottom had given me clarity who truly cared, who never would, and what I was capable of when cornered. There were still nights I lay awake, listening to the ocean and replaying Amanda's final words. David will never forgive you. But forgiveness, I realized, was never the point. Survival was, protection was, and in the end, justice had been served with a precision she could never have anticipated. One morning, months later, David and I stood on the deck watching the sky turn rose gold at sunrise. He leaned against the railing, quiet for a long time before finally speaking. You saved me, Mom. I don't know if I'll ever stop feeling guilty, but I need you to know I'm grateful. I reached for his hand, the ocean whispering below. Gratitude is enough. The rest will come with time. He squeezed my hand, and for the first time in years, I believed him. Sometimes survival looks like marble floors and ocean views. Sometimes it looks like sitting across from your child, drinking coffee, knowing the worst is behind you. And sometimes it looks like laughter, soft and unforced, echoing over waves that have seen storms far worse than greed. Life has a brutal sense of humor. I lost a house but gained freedom. I lost illusions but found truth. And in the end, I discovered that sometimes the best revenge isn't fire or fury, it's surviving long enough to watch justice arrive with interest. Thank you for listening. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And tell me in the comments what you would have done in my place. Your voice matters.